His Girl Friday is the 13th and final episode of the Tortellis. This is directed by Michael Zinberg, and there will be some spoilers go through the episode and share some thoughts. I won't go scene by scene, but I'll talk briefly about what happens. To be honest, I enjoyed the episode, but I didn't love it. I don't know if they knew that this was going to be the last episode, but I will say it's not a very strong final episode. But it's very, very possible that they were commissioned for the 13 episodes, and then they'd find out if they were getting a second season, and obviously they didn't. So that's just worth bearing in mind. And Nick has decided to hire a secretary, and this secretary is Rachel Horne, played by Leslie Bevis, and she's a great character, very well written, great performance, is not what Nick Tortelli had in mind. He hired her the second he saw her because she's beautiful, and then once she was hired, it turns out, well, quite rightly, she's a stickler for the law, and there are a lot of workplace regulations that Nick isn't following. She's going to make sure that that's turned around, and there are a lot of other things that she's demanding. And again, I understand if Nick's not following these things like he should be, then fair enough. And she's basically making his life very, very difficult. And I'll say no more than that. I will say we had a nice moment between Rachel and Charlotte. I thought that was quite nice. And a bit with flowers. Nick has a bunch of flowers in his hands, and he ends up doing something with them unexpected. And again, I know I said spoilers, but I won't give away the best moments in too much detail. In general, it's an absolutely fine episode. I really liked the character of Rachel. I loved what she brought to this. I do like Nick Tortelli. I never thought I'd say that. Before watching the Tortellis, I definitely didn't. I only ever saw him as a sleazy slimeball who treated Carla really terribly. But with the Tortellis, we get to see a different side of him, a hard-working side of him. He's still Nick Tortelli, but there are these positive qualities, and this really comes across in some of the episodes. This one, maybe not so much. But I like Nick Tortelli, but it was good to see him up against Rachel, and Rachel giving as good as she gets, and the moment with Charlotte where she basically sided with her, I rather enjoyed as well. So not a bad episode, decent concept, well executed. Yeah, as a final episode, it's not very strong. It definitely doesn't have season finale energy about it. But as I said, it is very, very possible that they had no idea this was going to be a season finale. But that aside, I enjoyed it. I thought His Girl Friday was a good episode of the Tortellis. Am I sad it's over? I guess so. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I didn't expect to when I started watching it, but I started watching it partly out of curiosity, partly because I knew Norman Cliff had cameos in it. But actually, I took to liking it relatively quickly. Had it been maybe 5 seasons or 6 seasons, I'd still watch it, but I probably wouldn't have been that enthusiastic. But as a short series, it's pretty entertaining. I definitely enjoyed it. Has absolutely given me a different perspective on Nick Tortelli, which will then affect my perspective of the character whenever I rewatch Cheers episodes with the character. So it's definitely, I say it's a worthwhile experience. I'm assuming if you're listening to me at this point, 13 episodes in, you've probably seen the show by now. But if not, for whatever reason, and you're a fan of Cheers, give it a watch. It will definitely, at least in my experience, it has altered my perspectives of Nick Tortelli. That's not to say he's a saint, not he's a perfect person, but there are different sides to him that we don't really get to see much of in Cheers, and I rather liked that. And ultimately, I liked His Girl Friday. Not the best episode, but still pretty decent.